to One Stop Central, presented by Central Times. We're back here for episode 2. I'm Kyle Schaefer.
I'm Mike Parker.
And this is our honored guest.
My name is Julian Han. Nice to meet you guys.
By the way, just so you know, his nickname is Han, so if we call him Han, that's why.
Yeah. So, let's get started with today's topic. You're not originally from here in America, right?
Yeah, I moved in last year, and I originally come from Myanmar, or Burma. It's a country near Southeast Asia, or in Southeast Asia, next to India and Thailand.
What's Myanmar, Burma, Myanmar? Which one do you want us to say?
Anything, any is fine. I don't mind.
So, Myanmar, what's it most famous for?
It's famous for the jewelry it makes, because we also make like one of the best rubies in the world.
Mm-hmm. Like blood diamond kind of things, or?
No. I mean, I guess you could say that. But we're most known because of our, how would I put it, our religiousness. Because if you come to Myanmar, the first thing you would see or notice are the big golden temples we call pagodas, and in them would be littered statues of Buddha. Because my country is a very heavily Buddhist country, and everyone there, well, almost everyone there, practices Buddhism. Even myself, I was brought up as a Buddhist, but I'm an agnostic, and it's really interesting.
How so? What's interesting about it?
It's interesting because how do I put it? Because it teaches this way of like self peace, right?
Yeah.
Like how to find peace within yourself. But from the place I've come from, it's very hard to find self peace because there's lots of stress from social standards, from educational standards, because you have to participate with so many other children. When I was a kid, you would be compared to other kids because you didn't hold up to their standard. Like your parents would say, "Why aren't you performing as well as him?" And it's basically this toxic mindset from Asian parents that they always have to. It's like their kids is like a competition. See, my parents would look down on me because I didn't perform as well as their friend's child, and that just breaks you down. You can't. You really look at yourself as like, who am I? Like, what am I doing?
So hard to hear that.
But I got used to it. Yeah.
So, what was school like out there?
Well, school. There were two types of schools. There were the public schools, which were old school. Don't mind. Because it was like you went there, they taught you Burmese, but it was also very strict. Like how if you mess up a question, you will be flogged in front of the class. I myself didn't go to the public schools. I got this from the experience of my friends who have went to these schools, and they say that it's pretty bad. I went to a private school. It was much more expensive, but we got a higher standard of education, and we met much more different people.
Well, first off, I'm so sorry to hear that that was your experience. I want you to know that we don't, no matter what, at least I think we do, we really, knowing you and seeing you right here and talking about this, I think that you're great, you're a very interesting person. I don't think anyone should really look down on you just because you don't perform academically, you know? Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So, I hope you're feeling better. If you ever need someone to talk about, man, like, I know we talk about that sometimes, but just saying that if you ever need to talk about something like that.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I tend to put that behind me because I try to live my life without much care. I try to be happy, so I buried that.
So, kind of going back, and I hope you're okay with talking about this. You said you were flogged in class? Like,
well,
in what way? Like,
well,
what are you talking about?
Well, well, I wasn't flogged necessarily because I didn't go attend these schools, but when I was a kid, my mom would tutor me if I was learning Burmese, like the characters and stuff, and I also had to memorize because we did rote memorization a lot. Like you have to remember this entire passage of the book in Burmese, then recite it in front of the whole class. I couldn't do so my mom would hit me with a cane, and basically I would just cry every day until I got used to it. Well, she doesn't do it anymore. She's gotten more used to it, but yeah, that was how tutoring worked back then.
Wow, that's
It's intense.
yeah, I could not imagine that.
Yeah.
So, jumping into how does Buddhism work out there? So I'm not very familiar with the religion. Do you guys have to like attend certain like practices or?
My parents, or my family is heavily Buddhist, so we regularly attend sermons where we sit there for 2 hours and we hear the chantings of the Buddhist monks, and then we also say a prayer ourselves, where we wish prosperity on others, wish prosperity on ourselves, and find peace. And yeah, it's like that. And we also, how would I put it? It's sort of like, I can't say much for that. It's just that we just have an emphasis on peace.
So that's just kind of what Buddhism in general is because I think because we kind of learn about it because early on we learn about different religions, not languages. I can't say that I've never ever heard someone speak Burmese before, but we hear about it, but it's especially around here we don't really get a chance to meet anyone that has practiced and I guess not in your case, but really believes in it, you know?
Yeah, I could speak Burmese for you right now.
Yes, please.
It's a bit hazy. I'm not as great as my parents or my brother, but I can try. I know the basics. It's like Mingalaba, Nigauna, Nganamega, Pomyaha. Oh, Ayang Gamba.
All right, so to translate, he said that One Stop Central is the best place to watch. So come back. Yeah, it's a little plug. So thank you for doing that.
Actual translation is Minglaba means greetings. Nigauna means how well are you, or how are you today, and Nganame means my name is Pomyaha. Aname got Pomyaha. Ayang Gauna means that's very good. And that's the most basic of what we learned. I've been drilled it my entire life, but I don't remember any of it now.
So you guys mostly speak English there, is that it?
No, not really.
Really?
No, not really. My parents at home, we communicate in Burmese. Back in home, we communicate to everyone in Burmese. It's
How'd you get so good at English then?
because I attended a private school, and in private school they hire a lot of foreign teachers. So that explains why that's why I say the higher standard of education. Yeah, but I must say, in Myanmar, it has become much more easier if you don't understand the language, because we have leaned towards foreigners, so we try to cater for them. Like the new buildings have English writings on them, so it's okay if you can't read. Like I can read them, but I don't actually know what they mean.
Speaking of languages and learning languages, at Central right now you're learning German, is that right?
Yeah, I am learning German.
Shout out to Herr Schultz.
Have a nice day, Herr Schultz.
I'm sure he'll really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Learning it there, like learning Burmese, like you said when you were younger, or I guess English, and now learning German here, what do you think the difference is in learning languages?
I would say the differences in learning languages is that when you do it as a kid, it's it's much more, now I wouldn't say easier, but it gets in your head easier, because we also add the fact that it's all about memorization.
It's also because everyone around you is speaking it. You know?
Yeah, and also it's because it's quite brutal. Here it's quite different because there's not much emphasis on memorization. particle. So which makes it easier to forget. Which, no offense, but I would say it was also easier to know it back then because of the workload. Back then, learning English in Burmese was much more emphasized. You gotta learn this. But here you have to learn a different variety. You have to balance it out. You have to learn algebra, English, mathematics stuff. You have to balance it out with the language.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as much heavily emphasized.
So, I got a question. So you said algebra. Is there like different numbers and stuff out there?
Yeah, there are different numbers.
You guys don't use the Arabic numbers like we do here?
No.
That's interesting.
I could write, but like 10 would be like a C and an O. And then also the writing system is way different. It's like, how would I put it? Ma. You can add little symbols on it, like another O on top or L on the bottom to change its meaning.
So little characteristics like the Chinese ones, or
Yeah, it's like the Chinese ones. It's much more closer to the language in Nepal, because that's what it's derived from. Which also makes it like very hard to like get it right, because once you get to the advanced, it gets what you spell is not what you say.
Has that been a trouble kind of coming over? And a lot of people, just in case you didn't get what I meant by Arabic numbers, we use the numerals, those are from Arabia, the ones that we currently use. So has that been like a trouble in math and stuff? Switching from like you said, from the ones from Nepal to ours?
I never found it particularly hard. It was actually easier to learn the numeral system for you because it was 1, 2. But it was hard in mine because 1 and 2 were different symbols, and it was very hard to memorize those symbols because 9 and 8 look identical. They were either facing left or right, and you're just like, what's the difference?
So is it like B and D for like English letters in a way, kind of that comparison?
Yeah.
Like if you flip the two.
I would say more like P and Q.
P and Q.
Like a
Yeah, that
lowercase
makes
p and a
sense.
lowercase q, like they're just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
flipped.
yeah. That makes sense. So here's another question. How is the move to America?
Yeah,
in a
what was
way?
that like?
I can imagine it's kind of weird or a lot different, or is it?
Yeah. What was like the biggest changes you said you would have between your living style there and living here?
Or like similarities as well?
One of the biggest changes, or the greatest change I found, was when I look at the sky, it's blue. Like when I came here, I was amazed when I saw the clear blue sky. Back then, every time I look at the sky, it was like, it was foggy. It was all the pollution. You could barely, like, I could look at the sky, it was hazy, but I couldn't stare at it because it was so bright. That was how bad the pollution there was. And at night, I couldn't see the stars at all because of light pollution, etc., etc. And it's only when I got away from the city and went to the countryside I could see the beautiful stars. And that was the most apparent difference, because I don't know why, but I felt so astonished to see the clear blue sky. It's like I had never seen it before.
That's crazy to me.
Huh.
And one of the
That's very interesting.
Yeah, like that's
to me.
not like that's
I've never seen
if
like a different color.
you
in the
like
sky.
you were gonna give me like a thing, like a top 10 list of the biggest changes I would guess you went through. That wouldn't be on the top 100. That's crazy.
Yeah. Also, one thing I noticed is that, I guess that's the most apparent one, but it wasn't that much of a difference. I expected it when I came here, but was like the change in economic status. Back in Myanmar, I would cross the street and I would find a homeless person. They would like across the street, and I felt really bad because one big difference is that like we just recently got these massive skyscrapers, but you go 2 feet away and then you see like this tiny little village right next to it,
Like a shanty town?
like a shanty town. It's just, you're like, damn.
Yeah. And there's not much of that in America, so that's...
Yeah, everything here's cleaner, and
Sort of like on the way here when I was driving you said something about a lot of like trash and stuff on the ground.
yeah, there were a lot of trash because most people are there's no public trash cans. Like, you can rarely find one, so people just dump it on the streets. And yeah, I would say the majority population of Myanmar are below the poverty line, and they're uneducated, but they're nice people. They're so kind. They're like, honestly, they're like one of the best people I've ever talked to. Like, I just feel bad for them. And my family tried to give them work by employing them as maids and as drivers.
You mentioned people are a bit different out here. Like, are they meaner or nicer?
Yeah, you did say that they were
Yeah.
like the nicest people you met. What's your first impression? Not first impressions, but what's your impressions of Americans?
Americans? I would say they're louder, but seeing from how seeing when I try to sleep at night back home, and I could hear two people on the street argue, I wouldn't say you're that loud. But I noticed here's that how dismissive Americans were. Like sometimes at school, I didn't get bullied at school because I wasn't noticed as much. You know, that's fine, perfectly fine. But back in Myanmar, I would say they were the kindest people I met because they just were so nice to me. Like I wanted to get this done. They're like, sure, nice of you. But there was something off about it. You know, it exuded a sense of fakeness. Like they were nice for the sake of it.
So kind of like a lot of Asian countries. And to be fair, I wouldn't know much about this because I only know it from secondhand and sources about the culture. I've always heard that more Asian countries are very much about politeness, and while giving up that like genuineness, you know, being genuine. While in America, we really care about being genuine and being truthful and saying what we feel and all that kind of stuff, but are very loud and much more rude because of it.
I would agree with this because back at home, I've had friends that I no longer talk to. They're nice people, but I just don't want to talk to them because there's no sense of genuineness. Like here, you guys, I've met the best people here because we can connect on a bigger scale because the music, what we like, sci-fi, that is all here. But back home, all people care about was improving their GPA or getting into medical school, and that just made making friends harder for me because I just want to have fun while other people want to succeed.
Speaking of that whole thing of wanting to succeed and the GPA kind of stuff, you also mentioned before that you were kind of really pushed and how you kind of, you know, people were kind of compared like that. Man, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That sounds really like a weight on you. You know, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Worst case scenario for me was back in my childhood when my brother, my brother Kevin, he played lots of sports, and it was basically the golden child of the family. So my parents were like, why can't you be more like him? So they pushed me to do sports, which I hated because when I do sports, I would like to do it out of my own volition, because when you participate in like a school, I hate being looked at. When you get looked at by someone, your performance drops because the fear of you messing up and embarrassing yourself. And when people look at you, that just goes up, and that's what I hated. On the basketball team, I was forced to join, but whenever I got to play, it was really embarrassing because I didn't know what to do, and then I just let everyone down. So the coach just made me the water boy for my brother, and yeah.
Mike, you're in like a lot of like you're in wrestling. You're kind of jacked, you know. You know, I'm not saying I'm not the weakest guy, but this is no gun show. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that? Like the differences, where you just kind of because like in sports, I think it's a good idea that you guys can kind of connect on.
Yeah.
Sports there in general. What's that kind of like? And then Mike, could you say too? What
Yeah.
the differences?
So here, you want to just go first?
Yeah.
No, you go first. I don't know.
Okay. Well, sports here, you must already know. Yes, there is a degree of favoritism going on with like coaches that like a lot of coaches have kids on the team, so obviously they're gonna get to play the most. With wrestling, yeah, coaches do have favoritism sometimes. Like depending on some of them, like genuinely they are better. Some of them they just like the kid more, and because there's more of a bond. I did experience some of the favoritism on both sides a lot. I was definitely more the controversial wrestler and MMA fighter. But it's definitely not the degree where you throw someone on at a water boy kind of state. That's like crazy. I've never actually. I thought that was just a movie fantasy.
How old were you when that happened?
Oh, you tried out. Great job. You made the water boy position.
Yeah, carry my bag.
That does not happen here.
Yeah, how old were you?
That's very interesting.
I was still in
elementary school.
Middle school.
Middle school.
Like,
I was in some sports during elementary school and beginning of middle school. Jeez, that's crazy. Like even then, like the whole thing here, and we kind of, I think a lot of people talk about this, is like the participation awards. Everyone's special, but the idea, that's just crazy that someone would go that far to like the other direction of, oh, you suck, carry our water.
Yeah, it feels worse when you have to take the group photo at the end of a tournament, you know those, and you're just like I don't deserve to be here.
All right, so Han, could you move a bit out of frame? Yeah, okay. Could you get the photographer some water, please? He's a little parched, but that's
totally imagine seeing like. Sorry, this may sound mean, but it just seems like. You know, like how in a sports photo everyone had like a soccer ball or something.
Oh yeah.
You carry this big jug.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're pouring the jug on the coach, that kind of thing. Yeah. They ask you, like in the photo, you're carrying it over to them.
Yeah.
Oh, we're making jokes of it, but that's I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're having a lot more fun and are having a better time overall over here. Or do you think Americans overall, or at least in your experience in America, have we been more inviting to you? Have been more?
Yeah. You have been. Yeah, you guys here have been really inviting. Back at home, I felt lonely because all my previous friends they wanted to get work done, so they always chose the best person in class rather than like people they appreciate. So you just feel left out, and it was also this old school thinking where like, you know, like it's just you just didn't fit in because you may have a different opinion, but it felt worse back then because they would bully you for it. I mean, that still happens here, right? But you can still find a group of people here that relates to you. But back then, I couldn't find anyone that related. The only one I did was my best friend Johnny. He's someone I look up to because I see him as my other brother because he and I share so much in common with, but he also teaches me to stand up more for myself because I tend to not care about things. But he tells me to be more confident and take opportunities, and I really appreciate him. I really appreciate him for that.
That's really cool. I think it's really important. A lot of people, I mean, everyone knows you have to have friends, but having friends that you kind of really feel that kind of connection with, I think that's really, really great to hear about. You still talk to him?
Yeah, I talk to him on the platforms. He's the only one I...
It's okay, we're not going to get sued if you bring up Discord. It's okay.
It's okay. He's the only one from my childhood that connects to me because he doesn't care about grades. He dropped out of school 2 years ago, and he just stays at home playing video games. I love him. It's like he's just someone I go to whenever I feel bad because he's always there for me.
So how many of these type of people are out there, like as a general? It seems very rare to like have that kind of mentality in a way, like compared to most out there. Like,
wait, which mentality? The one
like
of
the one Johnny has. Like,
oh,
it seems like most of them are very focused and like working just for the GPA. They don't care about anything else. Are there more? Is it like half and half, or is it like?
Yeah, because I think it's here. It's kind of like half and half, or
Yeah,
even
here
just
it's
people
like
have.
more, here I would say it's actually more just the opposite. Like have kind of more fun
I would
over
say,
the GPA.
I would say
stuff.
instead it's kind of like a mix of it, but I think that's most people. Like no one's like black or white. I think it's like black or white. Either they do all they care about at school or all fun. I feel like it's more of a which
mix.
one? Yeah, they put more focus on one. Like I know people that stay at home like the entire week, study, don't really go out much, and then on the weekend they hang out with friends.
Yeah.
Because they have fun then, but they realize that over the week they have to study and stuff like that. Or the exact opposite. I know people that also like go out and have fun like during the weekdays, and then they try to study at night and try to get that in, stuff like that. So people have different things. Do you think that over there it's that kind of mix, or do you think it's almost entirely skewed towards school?
I feel like it's skewed towards school
Mm-hmm.
because we also take like 4-hour tuition after school every day. Then you get like buttloads of homework, and whenever I talk to my friends, it's just there's this like sense of being left out, you know. I would be left out by my friends, like, who I thought were close friends. Like they would go to the movies without me. I'm like, damn.
Aww.
It's okay now because I cut ties with them. I realized how unfun it was to talk to them.
You know what? That's really important. A lot of people don't. I mean, it's something that a lot of people should do. If you feel someone is toxic or is hurting your like emotions in general, like, or making you feel worse overall, I think it's. I like how we both looked at each other when we said that. We just supposed to stare each other's eye. You gotta cut out these toxic people. You gotta just get away from them all. But yeah, I think that's really important, especially for your mental health. You know, what's the point in staying around people and just because you know them for so long, that doesn't mean that they're not toxic or hurting you. You know.
Yeah.
Here, I got a question. So, do you have like any big hobbies out here that's like way different than you would like
You know, just
kind of hobby comparison?
well, you know, let's just keep it like that. Do you have any hobbies that you're interested that have been
Yeah.
affected by the move?
By the move, one thing I really appreciate moving here was miniature collection. Back then, it was really hard to find like where to get miniatures because first of all, people judge you a lot. Man, you're buying miniatures instead of studying. What are you? Here, it's like, wow, it's really good that you share the same hobby, and it's also because price differences. Here, it's like back then, it's like. Back at home, it's like much more expensive, and here it's just you can get this, and it seems less. How would I say? Less emphasis on it. And in terms of hobby, nothing really. Other than that, nothing has really changed that much, because I can still access books, I can still write things, I can still draw things, from what I could back at home here.
Speaking of the hobbies that you're doing, have any of them been affected by coronavirus? Like miniature collecting, has that been affected? Like you can't go to the stores or anything?
I definitely believe it has affected it because I prefer to physically shop rather than shop from online. So with the quarantine and stuff, I couldn't leave my house. So without this sense of like keeping up with it, I kind of lose interest over at times, and then you just get to the state of doing nothing.
Speaking of coronavirus, how do you think your life overall here has been affected by coronavirus?
Coronavirus? I would say it hasn't been affected that much because it's been fundamentally the same. I play video games. I consume media, anime, and other stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad to hear that it hasn't really affected. But like you said about Johnny, how you look at him and you really respect that. I gotta ask. I don't know if. Do you think that that's kind of like, that's not really a good way to go about it? Just kind of giving up and just focusing entirely on having fun.
I would say that I definitely agree that it's not the best way to look at it, like giving up and having fun. But
you just can't have fun all the time. Like,
yeah,
you gotta,
like
you gotta have a nice mix, you know.
Yeah. Well, I did left out one detail is because like he may have given up, but he still is very optimistic. Like he still has this. He still has his like thought that he will succeed one day and that he will do nothing to get at it.
What is he doing to go towards that?
He's like learning. He's doing different stuff. He's like learning how to. He's like learning about the stock market, how pursuing different stuff. Like he's learning how to draw, how to animate, and I really commend him for that.
So it's really things like, sorry to cut you off. It's really things like outside of school. Like you should like, for example, in school we should be learning like how to
Do taxes.
Do taxes. Exactly. We
Just
should
saying.
be learning that, but we don't, and that's a problem. But he's like, instead of like pursuing school very heavily, he's pursuing like these other things. Like, yeah, I think stock market's like a huge one. I'm invested in it, and I think everyone should be learning about it. Very positively impacts you. So, is that kind of like the more things he's learning, like outside of school to succeed?
Do you think that those kind of things too are also affected? Because in America we have a lot of like different schools for like animation, specifically that kind of, or learning about the stock market. We have like night schools for that. Do you think that he isn't given the same opportunities because he isn't born in America? Or hasn't come to America, I suppose?
One thing I would say is that most kids that went to my school, they actually don't attend university at Myanmar. They all go overseas because they not the same opportunities are present there as it is in other places.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to learn animation, you go to other places, like how most of my friends are going to Britain, the UK, or Australia to really follow their career paths, because what is provided in Myanmar doesn't hold up.
So why'd you come to Illinois?
Illinois?
That's like, wait, what? I went to Britain. I went to Australia. I went to Illinois.
I went to Illinois.
Yeah, that's like it's smack dab.
I'm
And
gonna be honest, it's not my favorite state.
yeah,
It's
I
probably
would
one
say.
of my least favorite.
I would say if I were like, if my parents were like, so, we're going somewhere totally exotic. You would not expect where
We're gonna go
going.
to New Zealand.
Yeah, like I'd be like, oh, are we going to San Francisco? Are we going to New York? Oh no, are we going to Chicago? No, we're going to a suburb outside of Chicago. It's called Naperville. It's a pretty good suburb. It's a lot of rich people there, but like, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
They got Mod Pizza in downtown Naperville.
Yeah, you can go
They
up
have a
there.
Riverwalk.
Yeah, you're like 2 hours away from Chicago and 2 hours away from a cornfield. You know.
Pretty balanced.
Yeah, you can walk to school.
Oh yeah, you're so close. That that must be nice. Did you walk to school a lot in Myanmar too?
No, it was like 2 miles away. I'm not gonna walk all the way from like my dinky little house to all the way to essentially the mall. Like you have to go through a highway.
You didn't walk the highway?
Oh, I wish I did. To be honest, I don't really know. I have to ask my parents why I moved here. I'm sort of a go-getter. Like I just go with the flow. I don't question it when it really unnerves me.
A go-getter, do you know that has a different meaning than what you think? Go-getter means like you're rushing to get that. You'll do whatever it is to change and affect things. I think what you mean like go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow. That was my bad.
Because I was like go-getter. But
Yeah.
you didn't argue. You just said that like you just want to have fun. That's not really a go-getter thing.
Oh yeah.
But no, I would say though you are a very whenever you're interested in something, you're really interested in something. Like you're gonna go get it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, Han, thank you so much for joining us today at One Stop Central. We're gonna be wrapping it up, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us. For anyone who wants to be a future guest, there is a survey down below you can take if you would like to do it on Zoom or in person. We do both. We also, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The links are in the description. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
And again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Han. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh, you stole my line.
Hey.
All right.
Anyway.
Have a good day, everyone.
We'll see you next time on One Stop Central.
Yeah. What he said.